Hi everybody, Nathan Ronen, CFA here with another update for all CFA candidates, whether you are a level 1, level 2, or level 3 candidate taking your CFA exam or considering taking your CFA exam. One of the questions, first of all, before I continue, people are probably saying, well, why is he in a t-shirt or whatever? Well, actually, I was just working out and doing some exercise, and something came to my mind. I said, you know what? Let me go right away and record this. So that's why you're seeing me in this condition. One of the questions I am constantly getting is, hey, Nathan, I didn't pass level 1, or I didn't pass level 2, or I didn't pass level 3, and I don't understand why, because I did every one of the questions in the qbank, in the question bank. Can you help me out? What happened here? Well, if this kind of information is interesting to you, or if you'd like to continue listening, please feel free to subscribe and press the notifications button now so that you can continue to receive these updates as I produce them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So again, Nathan, and again, I'll be very direct. I am usually getting this more from people who are considering level 1, but I've seen it at level 2 and level 3, because usually level 2 and level 3 candidates already have gone through the rigmarole, and they understand the advantages and, of course, the limitations of qbank questions. So I want to talk about this. Nathan, again, I've studied for this exam, or I'm studying for this exam, and I'm looking, should I do all these qbank questions, or I did all of these qbank questions? Why didn't I pass my exam? Let me be very clear about something. The CFA Institute produces a learning ecosystem. And in that learning ecosystem, at each level 1, 2, and 3, you have a database of questions. And then from that database of questions, like almost 10,000 questions at level 1, some of those questions are actually repeated in the CFA books or in the CFA learning ecosystem as end of chapter questions, or actually questions within the modules. So it's not like the questions in the modules and the chapter blue box are going to be very different from the overall complete database of questions that you have as a qbank with the learning ecosystem. So it's just, again, like I said, they duplicate the questions. But that's not the important point. The important point that you need to keep in mind is quality over quantity. Just because you do 10,000 questions or 15,000 questions or 4,000 questions or 1,000 questions doesn't mean that you automatically pass the exam. You got to look at that. You got to stop looking at this as a, pass, like on Monopoly, when you pass and you don't enter the jail. Okay. I mean, you don't have a card here that says automatically you're going to pass the exam. Okay. So you need to understand what kind of questions you're really doing. With the qbank questions, those questions and the end of chapter, and even the end of chapter questions, and the blue box, gray box questions, whatever you have there, those are all questions that are supposed to help you see if what you read in the module you digested, meaning do you understand it. It is not supposed to exemplify the caliber or the level of questions that you're going to see on the real exam. Now you say, why is that? Well, that's what you're going to get from mock exams. You're going to get mock exams that you do. If you're doing quality mock exams, they are going to reflect the level and the caliber of the types of questions you'll see on the level 1, level 2, or level 3 exam. They won't be the exact questions, but they'll be more of that caliber. But the end of chapter, the blue box questions, the gray box questions, and therefore the learning ecosystem qbank that CFA Institute gives you, those questions have a limitation, and that is that they are directly related to what you just read. So it's to help you to see if you've digested the material, understood it, and can move on. It is not integrating multiple readings, multiple concepts, multiple learning outcome statements together. So if you're doing the reading on income taxes, for example, in the level 1 financial statement analysis, all the questions are going to be about deferred taxes, deferred tax assets, deferred tax liabilities, some calculations, and that's all nice and dandy. But what are you going to do if on the level 1 exam, they ask you about deferred tax assets, deferred tax liabilities, and ask you how it impacts free cash flows to the firm, or free cash flow to equity, or the cash flows from operations, or the cash flow from financing? they're going to be integrating that on the exam. They're going to integrate multiple readings. That's what they constantly do. Same thing with the Sharpe ratio and the information ratio. Sharpe ratio may be discussed in equity, information ratio and portfolio management. They'll integrate the two because the formulas and the concepts are very similar, but they still have a little bit of a difference. They're not just going to ask you about the Sharpe ratio in isolation and say, the return on the portfolio is X, the return on the market is Y, the standard deviation for the portfolio is Z, calculate the Sharpe ratio. Those are called linear questions. Those are more like end of chapter questions. In fact, those are a lot of times what ChatGPT exams will give you. Those are what I call questions that are helpful to make sure you've mastered the material, but it doesn't reflect the caliber of the exam because it's not integrating the questions. That is not something that you should expect from any qbank, whether it be from a prep provider or from the CFA Institute, because here's the thing, when you're reading about deferred tax assets, how would they know if you read the statement of cash flow reading or not? They don't. So they have to ask you questions that are directly related to what you just read. So that's what you should be looking at the questions in the qbank as. Questions that help to reinforce the material, but they do not correlate to the level of difficulty or the types of questions you're actually going to get on the real exam. Now, I'm happy to discuss this with you in further detail. I am not putting down the CFA Institute's qbank questions or anybody else's qbank questions. All I'm trying to do is make the expectations realistic. Do not look to a one-to-one correlation between doing 10,000 questions, getting them right or getting them wrong, and the actual questions you're going to get on the exam. That's what you got to get more out of the mock exams that you do the 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks before the exam. Okay, so if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to help you out. I'm with Chalk and Board, CHALK and AND Board. That's chalkandboard.org. And I'd be happy to get you through the level 1 exam, the level 2, or the level 3 exam. And trust me, it's not as much work as you're imagining if you have a very good structure, format, and strategy in place, which is what I'm going to help you to do. And this is one of them, not doing 10,000 questions to try to pass an exam. Okay. Anyhow, if you'd like to know more, check out my website, reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you. Thank you very much for listening and have a good day.